Welcome to The Next Word. I'm Christine Warnke. On today's program, we are celebrating global connections and community diplomacy. Today, we are honored to feature two remarkable leaders dedicated to fostering international friendship and cultural exchanges. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Ricki Garrett, President of Sister Cities International, whose inspiring vision promotes peace and understanding across nations. In the second half of the program, I will be joined by Mr. David Hill, President of the Rockville, Maryland Sister Cities Corporation. Dr. Garrett, thank you so much. And before we get into our conversation, let's see a quick video on Sister Cities.
Wonderful.
My grandfather founded the Sister Cities movement in 1956. Peace was his mission. In fact, he said, if the people would just get together, so eventually would nations.
Sister Cities, to me, it means opening my eyes to humanity, opening my worldview.
I've always believed that diplomacy isn't the job of governments, it's about the people. It's a platform that allows us to turn global goodwill into meaningful local action.
It makes me smile when I think about the amazing things that we can achieve when we feel more united. We are one across the world.
We have actually grown the membership of Sister Cities International 52% in the last 2 years. We now have 426 U.S. cities, around 1,800 partnerships around the world in about 140 countries.
In the very, very beginning, they had a pledge, and that was to cross diverse cultures. In today's divisive times, if you don't have the common threads that go along with sister cities, and then you don't know each other and you don't get to know each other's hearts.
Welcome back. Can you start by telling us, Ricki, about your background and how you really got involved in this amazing organization from the beginning?
It's really a rather varied background. I have degrees in English and higher education, and I spent 12 years on the Board of Trustees governing higher education in Mississippi, and that was followed by nonprofit management. I spent 8 years managing the Mississippi Nurses Association, and then started the first Nurse Practitioner Association in the state, and then was elected the Alderman at Large, Mayor Pro Tem of Clinton, Mississippi, and that's how I got involved with Sister Cities International. The Adjutant General of Mississippi came to City Hall and asked the mayor and I to form a sister city between Clinton and a city in Uzbekistan, and that was because the state of Mississippi had a long-standing military relationship with Uzbekistan.
Right, and the National Guard, and yes.
Right, and then I became the state representative for Mississippi, and then the liaison for all of the state representatives, and then was asked to come to D.C. to serve as the president and CEO.
You're lucky to do so. We're
Thank
so lucky
you.
to have.
Thank you.
And Maryland has a great state sister city with Bosnia
Right.
because of the National Guard relationship between the two countries. So.
Yes, that partnership program that's part of the National Guard is
Yes.
invaluable in starting Sister Cities programs.
And I should note that Washington, D.C. has an incredible relationship of the National Guard between Washington, D.C. and Jamaica, which
Yes,
unfortunately
I
is
understand that.
going through
Terrible
horrific,
storm right
terrible
now.
storms. Let's talk about diplomacy and, why is it so important in today's world? And, people use the term and sometimes they don't realize all the aspects of it and what that means, of course, why Sister Cities is so important.
Well, as you know, Christine, Sister Cities was founded by President Eisenhower, and his dream was to have lasting peace in the world, and he knew that the only way for that to happen was through relationships and partnerships. And so for 70 years, Sister Cities has been building those partnerships between cities in the U.S. and cities in other countries. And, you know, the politicians certainly sometimes do build peace and maintain peace, but it's really dependent on the relationships of the people of those two countries to really maintain a lasting peace. And so those exchanges over many, many years have really helped to maintain peaceful relationships.
Absolutely. We talk about all the countries that Sister Cities is involved in. So talk a little bit about the reach of Sister Cities, because it's quite extensive.
It is. There are 437 U.S. cities that are members of Sister Cities currently. And those 437 U.S. cities have about 1,800 partnerships around the world in 140 countries. So the reach is extensive, but we're always wanting to start new Sister Cities programs, and we hope people will consider encouraging their city to become a member.
We've talked a little bit about before about programming, and of course we've added a new one's been added on sports diplomacy, but there's also commercial diplomacy. We think of cultural diplomacy, but can you touch on the programming aspect and some of the newer focuses that Sister Cities is engaged in? That'd be great.
Yes, we have historically been focused on educational exchanges between high school students and university students in the two countries. We've also put a lot of focus on cultural exchanges, such as one you'll probably hear about in Rockville. But we've also, in recent years, begun to highlight sports diplomacy, partly because of the World Cup games happening in this country, as well as the LA Olympics. So that's become a new focus. And probably even more significant than that has been the economic development projects that have come out of some of these Sister Cities programs that have really brought a lot of financial strength to some of these cities.
Oh, absolutely. And I know you're not, of course, from San Antonio, Texas, but that's a good story, correct?
It is.
If you could touch on that.
Yes, that is a wonderful story, and it developed out of a individual in San Antonio who was very close to the Toyota family. And their Sister Cities program in San Antonio was very focused on economic development, and this family in San Antonio helped to build some relationships between the city officials and the Toyota family, and now they have one of the largest manufacturing plants in San Antonio.
It's fabulous. Oh no, it's huge. So going back to how we can overcome some of the cultural misunderstandings and how Sister Cities can really help alleviate and show what people really are and what they do, and how those friendships are made and how those exchanges are done, which are phenomenal.
They are, and I think, there is a lot of misunderstanding between people today, and I don't know if it's a lack of communication or the wrong kind of communication, but we can overcome those differences in our cultures and our understandings by participating in these exchanges, whether it's a youth exchange or cultural or humanitarian aid. In all those ways that we relate to people from another culture, we're overcoming some of those obstacles, I think, that separate people, and that lack of understanding about the other culture really contributes, I think, to a lot of the frustration and misunderstanding.
Right. So the question I have for you is, how can people, the viewers that are watching, get involved in their own communities, especially here, of course, in the state of Maryland, but broader, but certainly here in Maryland, we have some very robust programs, but what would you tell them?
That's a great question, and it really is at the heart of what Sister Cities is all about, and that's getting citizens in cities engaged in international affairs and building these partnerships that in some cases last for decades and decades. And so by joining your local Sister Cities program, then you're able to engage on that level with your partnering country, but it also puts you in a position to be a part of the broader Sister Cities network. So you have an opportunity to participate in leadership meetings and network with Sister Cities leaders from all over the world. And so it's a great way to engage both with your own citizens, but also people from around the world.
And Maryland, as a state, has a very rich diaspora community. So many places, whether it's African, and I know you have an emphasis on Africa, certainly, bringing more African countries into the Sister City family, correct? And I know there's a whole initiative on that.
There is, and those diasporas around the country really are a wonderful way to begin a Sister Cities program, because you've got a core group of people who really care about that country and who are willing to invest in those relationships. And certainly Africa is a part of the world that we're very focused on, because there's so few Sister Cities partners in Africa.
And people don't think, going back to something you said about Uzbekistan and Mississippi, you would think that would be a relationship, but it's a very strong relationship.
It is, and I was fortunate that the representatives of the National Guard in Mississippi had such a strong relationship with Uzbekistan, and were so interested in Sister Cities that they made the effort to approach us about building this partnership. So,
in closing with our conversation here, what message would you tell the viewers?
Sister Cities International for almost 70 years has really been bringing peace to the world through these relationships and partnerships between cities in the U.S. and cities in other countries. And we want as many U.S. citizens as possible to get involved with Sister Cities International and help us to continue to build new partnerships around the world and further President Eisenhower's dream of a lasting peace through citizen diplomacy.
Right. And the program itself, of course, is run through it's run through the headquarters here, but of course, thanking the Department of State for working with the international office. And that's critical.
It is. We have a really strong relationship with the Department of State, and have for many, many years. And it's a wonderful relationship because we help them to build the partnerships that are important to the diplomatic interest of the United States, and they help us to connect with embassies and with ambassadors and individuals around the world.
Well, that's great. unfortunately, we're running out of time, but thank you for being here. We're going to hear a little bit in our second segment about what the local community has been doing here in Maryland. But thank you, Dr. Garrett.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your work.
Thank you so much,
Okay.
Christine.
So please stay tuned for our next segment, where I will be joined by Mr. David Hill, and we will be right back.
Hate is loud. It gets clicks. It gets attention. Hate, however, is actually quite small. But love is the majority. Love fills our hearts, our lives, our every day.
Welcome back to The Next Word. I'm your host, Chris Warnke, and in this half we are joined by David Hill, the president of Rockville, Maryland Sister Cities Corporation, a passionate advocate for building meaningful global partnerships right in our own backyard. Mr. Hill, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Dr. Warnke.
So let's start just about how you got involved in Sister Cities International.
Yeah. My involvement really may go back to my early family origins, because we didn't travel that much, but my father's position had a lot of foreign visitors who would come, and we would host them. Or we invited everyone over to Thanksgiving dinner. So I grew up with lots of people from around the world around me, so I think that started my interest. And then as I settled into a city where I chose to live, in Rockville. Very early I became a commissioner in the city, an appointed commissioner, and did lots of work with the city, and then kind of dialed back from that. But then I think that original motivation in me came out to say, I want to engage with the world. And doing that through Sister Cities was an obvious way to help my local community and to fulfill that engagement. So that's how I got involved.
That's how you got. And your father was involved in what kind of?
He was a medical professional, but he was an academic surgeon. So, but he was doing research, and we had visitors from all over the world pretty regularly. But he always, at Thanksgiving time, when people couldn't leave or it was too far to go home, they were welcome at our Thanksgiving table, and that's how I got to know a lot of them. Yeah.
And with NIH being down this, not far, and
that's right.
A lot of people would come to NIH for their surgeries and their.
That's right.
Oh, this is great. That was great. What a story. So you're Pinneberg.
Yes, Pinneberg, Germany.
Sister city relationship.
Yes.
Is a long one, a very long one.
Yes.
Right? How did that get started?
Well, it's an interesting story. So the Eisenhower administration really kicked off the depth of sister cities in the United States and became Sister Cities International. But at the very beginning of that program in 1956, 1957, there was an American journalist in Germany who came back to DC on a trip, and he started talking to some of the towns in the area about having a sister city, and Rockville bit. We said, yeah, we'll do that.
Wow.
So at that time, before International Sister City was found, the State Department sort of was matching people up. And the Eisenhower administration was really focusing on Germany and Japan as places to do this, to create reconciliation from the hard feeling from World War II still. So we were looking at Germany, and our sister city, or our city rather, asked whether we might be paired with a city outside Berlin, because we were a suburb of the capital in the United States, and that would be a capital in Germany. But it was a little bit of a naive ask, and I don't mean to make fun of it, but it was emblematic to me of what Americans didn't know about the world. Because every place around Berlin that was a suburb was in East Germany. And at that point in the Cold War, that was not going to happen. So the consulate in Hamburg actually matched us up with Pinneberg, Germany, which is a suburb of Hamburg, the second largest city. And that was a really good match. So we got launched, and the rest is history. We celebrate our 70th anniversary in 2027, and we're making big plans to celebrate that anniversary.
Well, that's good. And the anniversary is coming up, you said, this coming year?
In 2027.
2027.
Yeah, okay. The year after this will be our 70th anniversary. We were just there in Pinneberg on early September with the relatively new mayor who hadn't been there yet, some council members and more of a delegation. Our sister city was celebrating its 150th anniversary of German incorporation.
Oh, wow.
So we sent a group over to help them celebrate, and it was a great experience. It's exactly what Sister City should be about. Yeah.
With younger people involved too? Because I know that's the focus for Sister Cities, certainly engaging our
Yes,
youth.
this delegation was full adults, but we are very active in trying to get youth groups going back and forth, and mostly focused on culture. In your prior conversation, there was a comment about sports, and within the history of our organization, we have exchanged, particularly the women's basketball teams at the high schools,
Really?
Played back and forth a lot, and we've had adult tennis teams, we've had bicycle trips together with our sister city, and not just here and there, but in some other places.
Really?
Yeah, so that's an example of some of the sports activities that we're involved with. And I really should mention for Rockville that our fire departments have a spectacular relationship. Both cities coincidentally have volunteer fire departments, and they're about the same age, and the firemen hit it off, and they're just good friends. I mean, they go to each other's weddings, and every other year we try to have a trip in one direction or the other, and it's fantastic. In Pinneberg, yeah. They do training together when they're here, and yeah, it's a great relationship, and really probably the small detail most success that we've had is with our fire departments. And our police department wants to get into it too.
Well, my daughter's a volunteer for the fire department, so I have to.
Oh, okay.
I have to say, so
she probably knows about it.
And my brother's a volunteer for the Wheaton Fire Department.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's very close
Sure.
to my heart, certainly.
Yeah.
The city, Yilan City in Taiwan,
yes.
which I came back from about 8 months ago.
Okay.
Tell me about that, because Taiwan is such an interesting country.
Yeah. Well, our approach in Rockville for the sister city relationship we had with Germany was to be really engaged. For a long time, we focused on that relationship. But when the new millennium came around, we kind of said, maybe we need a second sister city. And we started at that point, and it took us a little while to get off the ground. We did a lot of talking with a very large other city in Asia. And the difference in population size is one of those things that I think sister cities may work better if they're somewhat close to the same population, because that was one of the problems that we weren't matching up on. But when that didn't go through, it was actually the Taiwanese American community in the local area who approached us and said, how about a sister city in Taiwan? And they're the ones that picked out Yilan, which was a great matchup in terms of size and the government and the diversity. And we very quickly saw that as a good relationship and started it. That was about, 2016 maybe, when we started doing some first exchanges. We have a protocol where we really expect to do active exchanges to discover each other and get to know each other before we make the commitment to be a formal sister city. And we did that in 2019. And the only problem was that was just before COVID happened.
Right.
So,
everything.
but it was interesting that we sustained that relationship remotely through COVID. One of the great stories is that our sister city in Taiwan found out that the U.S. was having troubles with personal protective equipment in COVID. They manufacture it.
Right.
They sent us a very large, very expensive installment of personal protective equipment to help us in our sister city. And we received it and gave it to our first responders. And it was a wonderful gesture by our sister city. And I've been looking at how do we repay that still.
Right. And did they also give a lot of protective masks?
It was masks and gloves primarily.
Masks and gloves. Yes, I remember that. City of Washington received.
Right. And I was actually interested in the idea of maybe sending some vaccines back to them, because that's what they didn't have.
Right.
Except that the process of getting vaccines, we couldn't penetrate the commitments and the contracts and all of that. But I thought that would have been a nice, what can we do for each other? What do you have that we don't? What do you need? And I think that's the spirit of sister cities involved in that.
Absolutely. And also there are a lot of companies here in the United States right now that have soon to be expiring vaccines and soon to be pharmaceuticals, and certainly that's something that we're looking at as well.
Yeah. Why have them expire on the shelf when they're people's arms that need to be poked?
People's arms that really need them. No. But now, I haven't asked you your background in terms of your professional background. I know you don't do I know that you do all this in your sleep, and work on behalf of sister cities, and certainly your cities are phenomenal. What you've done is incredible.
Thank you.
tell us about your own background.
I'm a technologist in my own background, and that was, I was actually a history student, but I came into the professional life in the time when technology was booming. There were all sorts of opportunities, and I was good at it.
Yeah.
So I took that track, but this actually, for me, services kind of the alternate part of my intellectual interest.
That's great.
So, I work with computers all day long and data. It's not really satisfying in terms of people. So my involvement as a commissioner with the city, I think, was really involved with, engaging people and solving problems for people.
Great.
And that played in my sister city in the end, as I described earlier.
Well, Deborah, you're such a success story, and we have to clone you somehow and clone what you're doing in Rockville. Do you intend to add more sister cities? And what are your plans?
We are thinking about that, but part of our style for sister cities, and there's kind of a continuum of styles for sister cities, which is good, right? Because people can take it in their own way. But because we have a very engaged sort of effort, we every year we try to have some kind of exchange with our sister cities. We also host multiple events here for the cultures of our sister cities, and the purpose for that is to say it's not just about the opportunity of the people that can travel, but let's expose people here to the cultures of our sister cities. So we're thinking about a third sister city, and we would really like to, one of my dreams was to kind of say, let's have a sister city on each of the continents that have people living on them, right? I thought that was a nice way to spread ourselves around the world, but that's the problem. Spreading ourselves too far, too fast, will actually damage the relationships we have. So we have to be careful with that. But yes, I think ultimately we will have more sister cities. And one of the things that I want to bring up too is when you have that sister city relationship, Dr. Garrett referred to it a little bit, but it's really important to have that cell of people here that can represent that culture. Because I'm an American, and I've learned an awful lot about our German and Taiwanese friends. But it's their culture, and I, in some ways, can't actually represent their culture because it's not my culture. And so, but having that core of people that are really engaged, and that was very true with our Taiwanese sister city, was that group that came to us, and we're already kind of structured and are always there to lean into and are the best advocates for our local cultural events. That really is what makes things click.
Absolutely. Well, your Bubble Tree Festival, which I went to, I came to a year ago, was phenomenal.
Yes.
You had 15,000 people this year in 2025, in September of 2025. How did that start?
That started even before our sister city relationship. That was the first thing we focused on with that culture, was to say, what's really unique about Rockville. Also in Rockville, we have quite a few bubble tea restaurants that just came developed on their own. So that was something we could lock onto and make the theme. But it's really about Taiwanese culture in general. But that's the focus. And weather depends a lot on that. A very cute story though is 2 or 3 years ago, it was an incredibly rainy day. We had the bands of a hurricane that were coming through. And we still had about 4,000 people that turned out. And the reason for that, I decided, was people from Taiwan live in a very rainy place. They're not fazed by the rain at all. So that group of people still turned out and showed up. I think Americans who stay inside when it's rainy, we lost quite a few of them. But the weather, because it's an outdoor festival, depends a lot. We had beautiful weather this year, and
beautiful weather.
It's a record. It will be the biggest single-day festival in the city of Rockville.
Oh wow, that's congratulations. That's wonderful. Well, we're running out of time.
Okay.
And thank you so much, David, for being here. People want to learn more about what Rockville's doing. Where do they go?
The best way to get in touch with us would be through our website, which is rockvillesistercities.org. And we are more than happy to talk to other sister cities and share our experience and encourage them. We think it's a great program. And thank you for the opportunity to talk about it.
Thank you again to both of my guests, David Hill and Dr. Ricki Garrett, for joining today's discussion about global connections and community diplomacy. Thank you to my viewers for tuning in. I am Christine Warnke, and you've been watching The Next Word.